It's a family reunion. A family reunion. Yes, it was a get together for the Chicago Cubs 2016 championship team. How did this current team repay act? They won 2 out of 3 against the Minnesota Twins at the friendly confines. On the south side, the White Sox went north of the border to Toronto to 2 out of 3 for the defending American League champion Toronto Blue Jays. Are they true contenders in the American League? We'll give you our predictions coming up. In basketball, there was a big trade over the weekend, which no one talked about. In the Open Golf Championships overseas, we have a new champion. In the World Cup, the ending came with controversy, and we'll have a very, very, very special edition of Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more as the Monday Extravaganza starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one, drive into left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! Robert Jr., his 4th of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide. Up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a pass. Buzelis with the fade on the drive.
Tuesday motions left. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb throws. Middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears.
Welcome to this Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and we're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, executes on the IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. If you're watching us live in the living color right now on Sports Zone Chicago's YouTube page, don't forget to like the video. And after you like the video, please hype the video so we can get this content out to as many of you beautiful folks as we can so we can make it our program your #1 destination for Chicago and national sports talk. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions, do not 2 hours extravaganza. We call a sports talk radio show. You got to hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to Bill and Beer Boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must shout out our live game. It's LIVE Live Entertainment Game. And check us out live in the living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:22 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay game that's checking us out. Oh, the replay also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We invite you some of the best on Second City Sports. We'll talk about the NBA trade that kind of got lost in the shuffle involving one of the Thunder's role players. We'll talk about that. And Summer League is over with. We'll tell you who won and which rookie won MVP of that. The Open Championship crowns a new major winner, a first-timer. Also, Spain wins the World Cup again for the the second time this century anyway, but there was a you-know-who that kind of had to make it about him, but we'll talk about that. And an old school TV Monday will feature a TV movie that you probably very likely forgot about. I know Sid and I both did when we were talking about it over the weekend. But
you don't say.
Right? I mean, yeah, but we'll see if you all remember it. But And also sports media news as ESPN keeps one of their rising stars and so much more. But first, it was a family reunion. Shout out to the OJs for the 1975 hit album and song of the same name, as the 2016 World Series champions Chicago Cubs made their return to Wrigley on Saturday. And of course, you guys saw it all over the place. Michael Bush's home run right to Anthony Rizzo holding his little boy. It was hilarious, and he didn't drop the baby, so he's got a little bit of experience that. It actually happened a couple years ago, but unfortunately the Cubs lost that game. But they did win that game against Minnesota. They ended up taking the series against Minnesota 2 out of 3. Nico Horner had 7 hits and 5 RBIs. Matthew Boyd had a solid outing, only giving up 3 hits on Saturday, I should say. Yesterday, Shota had his best showing in the last couple of starts, 7 shutout innings, and only gave up 3 hits. But Sid, what do you think about that series? Also, well, let's talk about we talked about the World Series reunion with the 2016 champions. You saw it was basically who's who. Of course, Rizzo was there. Kyle Hendricks threw out the first pitch on Saturday. Rossi was there, Dexter Fowler was there, Jason Hara was there. So literally, like, just about everybody from that team. Even Joe Madden made his return. He was there too. So yeah. So what do you think about that whole weekend over there that happened at Wrigley?
Yeah, it was good for them and their fans. I know it started last Thursday with their reunion, with the Lovable Reunion podcast that's going on right now. The reunion took place at the Chicago Theater. It carried over to this past weekend at Wrigley Field. The players mingling with the fans, especially in the bleachers, and of course they have a championship plaza honoring that 2016 team as well out there at Gallagher Way. Which as I said before, shout out to Tom Ricketts and his ownership crew for making it outside of Wrigley Field a playground. It wasn't like that before they took over a decade ago. But it was good for the players to mingling with their fans, and the fans bringing out their memorabilia for them to sign, take pictures, and the ceremony was very well crafted out Saturday before that game. Cole Wright, the TV host for the Cubs, did a tremendous job. But if you're a Cubs fan, you're looking at this team right now as we transition over to what this year's team could be. Can this team even replicate, come close to what their 2016 did? We still don't know the full answer yet, but we started to see signs. As you mentioned about the pitching, you got a good enough performance from Matthew Boyd on Saturday. Shota Imanaga had his best outing in about 2 months against a mediocre Twins team. The offense started to come through, especially yesterday. Pico Armstrong, even though he went 1 for 4, he had a hit. Alex Brightman quietly is starting to come out of it. He had a home run with 2 RBI yesterday. Nico Horner is starting to heat up. He went 2 for 5 yesterday. Carson Kelly went 1 for 4, 1 for 3, I should say. And don't forget about rookie Pedro Ramirez. He quietly had a good game, went 2 for 4 with a run scored and an RBI as well. But LaKeena, as we said before, until this Cubs starting rotation gets some healthy bodies back, it looks like they're going to get one back for this Tiger series coming up starting tonight. Until you get some of these healthy bodies back in the starting rotation, the offense is going to have to carry this team. This past weekend, they did that, taking 2 out of 3 from Minnesota.
They did bring back Aaron Savale, of course, traded from the A's. So we'll see if they can beef up that rotation a little bit. Now, I do remember that Level Losers podcast. If you remember that episode, you guys can go back to watch it on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Jason Hayward, Anthony Rizzo, who hosts, did it, and David Ross. They did it with Jason Hayward, and Hayward actually covered Rossi's travel expenses, during the whole season. So if you guys want to check that out, you can check that out. Like I said, when you guys watch it after this, of course. Now, as far as the Cubs on the field is concerned, I mean, look, I think this is the best you could ask for. I mean, they lost a tough one on Friday. That was, Ryan Jefferson, a 3-run home run that kind of broke that tie, unfortunately. So that kind of killed that not a good start for the Cubs coming out of the break, but they did come back and win 2 out of 3. That's all you can ask for. Now they will be facing a Tigers squad that's been kind of up and down. So, that start their series tonight. They do get them here at home, so that should help a little bit. your stars there. Speaking of making his return, James Taillon, he's back after missing the last couple of months. He'll go up against Jack Flaherty, who's had his struggles lately. They don't have to worry about Scooble, so that's good news there. I guess if you're a Cubs fan. Ethan Roberts that'll be interesting to see. A veteran pitcher. We'll see how he does. He makes his first start with the Cubs against Framber Valdez, who's been kind of had his ups and downs with the Tigers so far this year. And also the rubber match on Wednesday, Colin Ray. He's been pretty solid for the Cubs in the first half. He'll go up against Keter Montero. So I mean, like I said, you don't have to worry about Scooble, so you don't have to worry about him this series. But there's no reason the Cubs shouldn't win 2 out of 3. I'm going to put that out there, and maybe they perhaps gain some ground against the Brewers.
I know it's supposed to be a little bit cooler tomorrow, but the weather's supposed to be fine. So I think that the bats will continue to stay hot for this Cubs thing. But you got to get some sort of started pitching right out of this group. You mentioned about Tuesday, tomorrow's starter. It sounds like to me that's going to be like a bullpen game. So all arms is going to be on deck for that one. And Colin Ray, he's been doing a fine job. I know his numbers don't show it his last 2 or 3 starts, but he's been doing a decent job filling in while all the other guys, as I mentioned, Ben Brown, James Taillon, who's coming back tonight, and Edward Cabrera, who's still out, but looks like he's on his way back, hopefully soon, has filled in well. So for this Cubs team, the offense still has to continue. Hopefully PCA can get back on track. Nico Horner, Alex Bregman, as I mentioned, who had a monster game yesterday. Hopefully they can stay hot. Hopefully, Dansby Swanson can pick back up the pace with his bat. I know he's been cooling off for the last couple of weeks, so we'll see what happens with him. You mentioned with Swanson, he went over 4 yesterday, but hopefully he gets back on track. But you're getting contributions from the other guys like Michael Conforto, the part-time player coming off the bench as a right fielder. And as I mentioned about Pedro Ramirez a moment ago, you had to continue to get contributions from all your guys from the bottom of their lineup, and it's going to be an interesting test against the Tigers. So you talk about missing Scooble, they're going to miss Casey Mize as well. So I'm gonna put it out there. They should sweep this team. I'll put it out there. The Cubs should sweep the Tigers, but my head tells me that I'm with you. It'll probably end up being the Cubs taking 2 out of 3, but I'll put it out there that the Cubs should sweep this series.
You just want them to help your White Sox, and we'll talk about those.
That's nothing to do with that. Let's go.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about the White Sox, coming out of the break as they take care of business against Toronto, and the rest of the weekend in MLB as the Red Sox stay hot, as well as Baltimore as well, and the AL West. Nobody seems to want to win that division apparently, but we'll have that and so much more coming up next. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown. Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
sir.
Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports of the Monday Extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at Sid Kid 80. Once again, it's Sid Kid 80. That's SIDKID 80. That's SIDKID 80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, executes again, IG.
We're continuing our baseball talk, talking Cubs, Sox, and the rest of Major League Baseball, the good, the bad, and the ugly from this past weekend. If you have any questions or comments regarding the subject of baseball, you definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you.
White Sox take 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays in Toronto. And of course, including a solid outing from Sean Burke yesterday. 4-hitter, combined with 2 other relievers to win the rubber match there in that series. And they lost a tough one. They lost a pitcher's duel to Shane Bieber and the Blue Jays on Saturday. But also shout out to the Blue Jays for due to the statue unveiling of Joe Carter, of course, who was the hero of the '93 World Series. So they might have fed off that also. But sadly, though, Dwayne Ward, who was the relief pitcher and the closer for those teams, sadly passed away yesterday. So we want to send our thoughts and prayers to him, to the organization and his family. But even still, back on the field, the White Sox they took care of business against Toronto like they should have, including offensive explosion. 12-4. Antonacci had a two-run home run. Of course, Braden Montgomery, he had a good series. Colson Montgomery had a solid showing yesterday. He broke the game open there with his RBIs. So the White Sox. So that's what you want if you're the White Sox. You want to get coming out of the gate, winning 2 out of 3. So that's all you can ask for if you're a White Sox fan.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the offense had their display last Friday night in that series opener. As you mentioned, Brady Montgomery had a good game. Kyle Till as well. Munetaka Murakami, he hasn't been himself ever since his return last week. But despite that, the White Sox are 5-1 in Murakami's return, outscoring their opponents 39-7. And just where you thought that the Sox couldn't do anything last Saturday, which was very disappointing, 0-for-7 in runners in scoring position. What did they do yesterday? The comeback, they are very aggressive late against Trey Yesovich, the starting pitcher for the Blue Jays. Were able to scrap in a couple of runs. Colson Montgomery busted it open with his 24th home run of the year, and the White Sox were able to take care of business there. The story of this past weekend series was starting pitching. Anthony Kay, while the numbers don't look as sexy as other starting pitchers in the league, he did a very good enough job to hold the White Sox down in that one. Davis Martin, as you mentioned last Saturday, pitched his heart out, but the offense failed to back him up with some runs. And of course, yesterday, Sean Burke is pitching lights out right now. And he did the job yesterday, just holding the Blue Jays to just 2 hits. In Sean Burke's last 6 appearances, he's pitched 38 and 2/3 innings with 47 strikeouts, 6 walks, giving up 6 earned runs off of 28 hits, and his ERA is at 1.40. So I said this to a couple people on the X machine yesterday. Hopefully, he's finally turning the corner. I think he's starting to turn the corner. I know in the past couple of years, it's been about consistency with him. That's been his problem. But so far in this last month and a half, it looks like he wants to be that guy at the top of the rotation next to Davis Martin.
We'll see if he can keep it up, because we know that we saw this last year. Of course, he was really solid, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. So maybe it's just the reverse of that trend. Maybe he can get better as the season goes on for the White Sox. Now, as far as the series they got coming up starting tonight against Texas. Texas lost a tough series to Atlanta. We'll talk about that in a bit here. But here are your starters here. Eric Freddie versus Jacob deGrom. That should be an interesting matchup there. Noah Schultz and Kuman Rocker. That should be a battle of the tough one. The Rocker has had his struggles this year, so maybe this White Sox can take advantage of that. Speaking of Anthony Kay, he'll be part of the road match against Cal Quantrill, I should say. I guess that's going to be a bullpen thing for the Rangers. The Rangers have kind of been sort of, they're kind of like teetering a little bit. They've been kind of up and down lately. So, but who knows what will happen in this series down in Arlington. We know that it hasn't been very good for the White Sox. I'm talking about over at Globe Life Field, but maybe the fortunes will change. We'll see. That is a hitter's ballpark, so there might be a lot of offense on both sides. So again, we'll see. It'll be interesting how this series goes. I think the Steelers could go multiple to a way, so I'm not going to make any predictions here. But look, we'll see what happens.
And also, to watch out for the bullpen for both these teams, because, like you mentioned, those pitching matches, especially the one tomorrow with Noah Schultz and Rucker, it could be a lot of offense scored, and then both bullpens could be wiped out by the end of that.
Take the over.
It could be wiped out by the end of the game for both for both of these teams. So it's going to be interesting how Will Venable, the White Sox manager, plays this. But like they did yesterday in the series finale against Toronto, like they did Friday night in their first of 2 wins of that series. You want to be aggressive, steal bases, be smart about don't get caught in the rundown like you did yesterday, Brave Montgomery, even though it did not come back to bite him. But you gotta be smart on the base pass. Smart on the base pass. Steal bases, but whenever you had to create scoring opportunities. The White Sox have been doing that at various times this year. That they got away with it a few times that haven't done a great job. But against this mediocre Texas team, I think they had to use that gameplay more tonight, because Jacob deGrom, I know people want to write him up because he's been injured the last few years. His career is over. He's been having his moments this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a moment against this White Sox lineup tonight. We saw what happened last Saturday with Shane Bieber. He was out a couple years ago with Tommy John. He struggled this year, but he looked like the vintage Shane Bieber pre-2024 against this White Sox lineup. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jacob deGrom comes close to doing that tonight. But as far as the rest of the series, I think you had to watch out for the bullpen for both these teams, in particular the White Sox. I know they have an off day Thursday, but you don't want to have your bullpen burned out before the month of July is over. So the White Sox, who says, I said this on X yesterday, who says that this team can't win a series on a row? You beat the defending American League champs. Yes, they're struggling, but this is huge, because if it comes down to Toronto and Chicago for that last wildcard spot in the American League, that season series win should get them over the top. So that's why that series was important. But after the series in Texas, which starts tonight, you come home for Houston and the Yankees, and then you go back on the road for, I believe, Boston, and I forgot who the other opponent is, and then you come home for Cleveland to start the month of August. So we talk about the dog days of summer being in August. It starts right now for the Chicago White Sox, because this next 3 weeks leading up to the trade deadline is going to be tough. They passed the majority of the tests so far this year. You're looking at another tough test starting tonight in Texas before you come home for Houston and the New York Yankees.
Just to put a capper on the White Sox discussion, like I said, Texas, they got Houston and the Yankees. Aaron Judge should be back by then. We'll see. Then you got to go on the road against Tampa and Boston. We'll see where Boston is. I know they've won 13 in a row now, but we'll see where they are by then. Then you got Cleveland and Cincy. So it doesn't get any easier for the White Sox. So, Yeah, I mean, look, Toronto, look, I'm not gonna count that Toronto series because, like I said, they've had their struggles. So, okay, you do what you're supposed to. You won 2 out of 3. So these next couple weeks are going to be the big test to see if the White Sox are a contender or not. So
Mhm.
that's just my synopsis of this whole thing. As listen to Second C Sports on Sports with Chicago. LaKeena McGee sitting around with you, talking about we're going to talk about the rest of baseball here. And then look, speaking of the Red Sox, let's since they're one of the hottest teams right now, they swept all 4 games against Tampa. And it's going to be interesting to see if this team is for real. I mean, they've kind of kept it going a little bit. I mean, Wilson Contreras has been hitting very well. The pitch has been very solid. So do I think they're for real? Who knows? But, at least so far, they've passed every test the last few weeks.
Yeah, the Red Sox took a page out of the Tampa Bay Rays playbook, right? Clutch hitting, clutch defense, and some very good starting pitching. I know Sonny Gray's numbers didn't look great yesterday. I had a chance to watch that game in its entirety. Sonny Gray pitched six innings, giving up only 5 hits, 1 earned run, but 5 strikeouts for 4 walks. But the walks they really didn't come back to bite the Red Sox in the butt. So the walks wasn't as big of an issue like it normally is with Sonny Gray. But you mentioned about the Boston's offense. Wilson Contreras had a couple of big home runs in this series. Let's not forget about Abreu, their right fielder. He had a couple of big home runs yesterday and big home runs over the weekend, I should say, in that series. I know he only had 1 hit yet. He was over 3 yesterday, but out of his 5 hits in that series, 4 games, his 5 hits in that 4 gamer against Tampa, 4 of them were home runs. So his bat is starting to heat up. Don't forget about the center fielder, Rafaela. He's good with that. He's good with the glove, but he's also good with the bat. He went 2 for 4 yesterday, scoring a run. So you're getting contributions from certain guys, young guys in that lineup, and give interim manager Chad Tracy credit for keeping these guys motivated. Now they're back in the race. Are they still for real? I still have a big question mark with that club, but so far so good as they sit 1 game above 500 at 49-48.
Yeah, Jake Bennett has been pitching lights out. I think you mentioned as I was coming in, but yeah, he's been really good too. Solid the rookie pitcher for the Red Sox. So like you said, I don't know if they're for real yet either. I think they may have just just had the right time right now. We'll see. I mean, wake me in a couple of weeks by the trade line. We'll see if they really are contenders now. Baltimore, if there was for the Red Sox winning 13 in a row, well, the Orioles have won 7 in a row after losing the tough series against the Cubs last week. They swept the Astros, and actually they do play each other. Talk about the Orioles and the Red Sox is actually going to be just a second time in MLB history in which 2 teams who have 7+ game win streaks meet and combined the 20-game win streak to combine for the 2. The other, you got to go all the way back to 1884. The old St. Louis Maroons against the old Washington Nationals. So yeah, we're going on the way back machine. We're going 2 centuries back for that one, but. Baltimore, I don't know if they're for real yet either, because I just think that, Henderson's been doing his thing with them. He's had a solid last few weeks or so. And I know Brandon Young had a solid outing yesterday for Baltimore to complete the sweep against the Astros. But again, someone's going to lose tonight. So, But look, I think the Orioles, you got to be feeling pretty good, at least, in this juncture.
Yeah, we always talk about their hitting, and we gave you the names for the last few years. On this roster, I know Pete Alonso's there now. He was signed by Baltimore in the off season, but their starting pitcher has been that down for the last couple of years. But Brandon Young yesterday, I had to give him a shout out. Pitched 7 innings for the O's, 7 innings, 7 strikeouts to 1. Only gave up 1 earned run off of 5 hits. It was very impressive against that Houston lineup. As we talked about with the Houston trash throws, as Sean Sierra would say, outside of Yordan Alvarez and Christian Walker quietly having a bounce back year, they don't have too much in that lineup. I know they have the former Cubs prospect Cam Smith playing out there in right field. I know Jose Altuve is struggling with the injury so far this year, but not too much to brag home about with that Houston Astros lineup. So. Baltimore took advantage of a wounded animal, and they did it. But like you just said, let's see if they could get to 500 against a very sudden hot Red Sox team. If you're the Red Sox, you play who you play on your schedule. Let's see if you stack up more wins against a below average team.
And that's gonna be the number one question here. Now the Yankees, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers at home. They did win the rubber match to keep from getting swept, thanks to Chaz Chisholm tie-breaking homer in the 8th. So that kind of broke the streak there. Now, like I said, they need to get their guys back. Hopefully, Judge will be back soon. They got to get some guys back on the pitching side. Luckily for them, like I said, we talked about the Rays earlier. They got swept by the Red Sox, so they're still one. They're only 1.5 back. They just got to get into runner, but they just got to get everybody healthy.
Yeah, that was the Yankee saving grace that Tampa got swept at Boston over the weekend, and the only saving grace for the Yankees as far as their offense is concerned, is Trent Grisham, who made his return to the lineup a few weeks ago. Their center fielder Cody Bellinger, who had a hit last night in the RBI, and also to Ben Rice, the young powerful left-hander at first base. He's been doing his thing this year for the Yankees. Also, the 3 players that have been their savior for the Yankees. You mentioned their starting pitching has been struggling here lately with injuries and inconsistencies, just throwing guys in and out of the rotation. Their bullpen has been taxed as well. So hopefully Judge can come back soon if you're a Yankees fan. Giancarlo Stanton, I don't know if we're going to see him this season. He had a setback in his rehab comeback attempt. So the sooner they get Judge back, I think the sooner they can challenge the Tampa Bay Rays for this division. But if not, like I said, I think they'll still be talented enough to get the wild card without Judge the longer he's out. But after that, I don't know if I can still consider them a World Series contender, not without Aaron Judge.
Yeah, that's probably. Yeah, they definitely need him back desperately. Now going to the AL Central, the Guardians lose a tough 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh at home. Similar scores from the bookend of this. With Paul Skeens striking out 8 for the Pirates to take the series there for them over the Guardians. I don't think Jose Ramirez is back yet. He should be back before the month is up, but they're definitely going to need it if they want to keep up with the Sox and perhaps even the other teams in that division, except for Kansas City.
Yeah, so the kids will say Paul Skeens got in on that ass yesterday. I had the chance to watch some of that after the conclusion of the White Sox game yesterday. His breaking ball, his fastball was on point yesterday. As we talked about with Cleveland, without Jose Ramirez, I know you have Chase DeLauder, you still have Stephen Kwan, you have Austin Hedges, but that lineup does not scare you minus Jose Ramirez. And the reason why the Cleveland is still in this thing is because of their starting pitching. Starting pitching took a big hit this weekend. That's why they lost the opening game in the series finale yesterday. Now they did find a way to come back last Saturday night, trailing 3-0 late, and thanks to the Pirates bullpen blowing it late. But LaKeena, they had to get a bat between now and the trade deadline. Will the Guardians have enough? Have enough to get an additional bat? Whether Jose Ramirez comes back soon or not, I don't know. But the reason why they're in this thing is because of their starting pitching. But they somebody has to step up and jump start that offense for the Guardians.
They got a tough series coming up, but we'll talk about that when we do the schedule. Minnesota, of course, we talked about them earlier. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. Detroit, they took care of business against the Angels. They won 2 out of 3. I'm sure if you're a Detroit fan, you're probably pissed that you didn't sweep that series. But Ryan Johnson and Soler,
especially after what happened yesterday, the bullpen did it to him again.
Yeah, they did. That's been real. That's really been just injuries in that bullpen. That's really what killed them. And of course, they killed them yesterday because they should have. Tigers fans, I know they're pissed because they should have swept that series against the Angels, but unfortunately, that's been their story this year. The injuries in their bullpen, unfortunately, not doing what they're supposed to do. But look, they're still only 6.5 back, so look, a lot can still happen now. The West, the AL West, we talked about the Rangers, losing 2 out of 3 to Atlanta, Seattle. I know their injuries have been mounting, but they did take care of business against the Giants. Don't know what happened on Friday. They got shut out 7-0, but again, they took the series. But look, Julio Rodriguez, his first game back since getting a concussion before the break, he did have the game in RBI to win that game on Saturday, and of course, they took the series yesterday. Look, they did their thing. They're only a half game back, so we'll see. Houston, they might be starting to fall back to earth a little bit. They get swept by Baltimore, the aforementioned Baltimore. We talked about that earlier. So it looks like it could be very well between the Rangers and the M's for the AL West, maybe.
Yeah, and so let's not forget about the Oakland Athletics. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Washington Nationals at home over the weekend. But I said it 100 times, but keep saying it 100 more times until someone gets on the hot streak for the next 2 to 3 plus weeks. Seattle, we talked about them all year long. Their inconsistency with offense, yes, part of it has to do with injuries too, but their inconsistency on offense has killed this team all year. They should be leading this division by 7 to 8 games, to be honest with you, especially after what they did last year again to ALCS. Texas, I know they have a first-year manager, but they have better talent than that. They should be better than what they are right now. So I'll say it once again for this episode of Second City Sports. Whoever gets hot for the next 2 or 3 weeks is going to win this division. Do I see a wild card spot coming out of this division? Maybe, but as of right now, I don't see it. Whoever wins this division is the only team that's going to represent the AL West in the playoffs.
We'll see what kind of trade pieces that these two teams make for that. Now going to the National League, Atlanta. We talked about earlier. Atlanta they won 2 out of 3 against Texas. Drake Baldwin. He's starting to get his groove back. He had a career high 5 hits, including 2 home runs, helping the Braves win that series against the Rangers. He's actually now the youngest player in the modern era to have 5+ hits and 2+ RBIs as single game while appearing as a catcher. So he's kind of like took the team on his back and led the way there because they're going to need him to kind of keep it going here. Of course, Chris Sale had a nice showing to open up that series as the Braves dominated the Rangers in that Friday game 15-1, but they definitely really need to get it going, and they really need Acuna back.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth. As I said before, and I'll say it again, I'm going to say this 1,000 times more. The longer that Ronald Acuna Jr. is out, the Braves are they are susceptible to going to a funk and maybe not come out of it. I know Michael Harris, their center fielder, has had some big hits this year. I know Matthew Olson, Matt Olson, I should say, at first base has been solid as well. But they need Ronald Acuna Jr. because he settles down and balances out the rest of their lineup. I know their starting pitching hasn't been good, as you mentioned, all year. Or Bryce Elder, and with Spencer Strider being in and out of the lineup, Chris Sale has been doing this thing. But the longer that Acuna Jr. is out, the Braves, they're susceptible to losing this thing. I know the Phillies will get to them now. They lost 2 out of 3 in a rare home series loss to the struggling Mets. But the longer that Philadelphia is hanging around this thing, you're going to give them confidence that they can take this division. And I think the Braves do have enough talent to get to the playoffs. But like I said before, and I'll say it 1,000 more times until Acuna hopefully gets back sooner rather than later, that this Braves team is better with Acuna in the lineup than without. They've done a nice job holding it up, but how much longer can they hold on?
Yeah, that's really the thing here. They definitely need Acuna back. Now, speaking of the Phillies, that was a tough series. I know Philly fans are smarting after losing to the struggling Mets. But yeah, that was like I said, Christopher Sanchez, he didn't pitch, so yeah, that because he pitched the All-Star game. Yeah, that might have didn't help them. I think we kind of figured that was gonna, and also with Brad Keller being out for the year, they definitely need to beef up that. They definitely need a bullpen pitcher or at least a reliever. So I'm sure they're going to be on the market for that coming up in these next couple of weeks before the trade deadline. I'm not worried about the Phillies just yet. I mean, look, it happens, so I'm not freaking. You shouldn't freak out if you're a Phillies fan. Now the Marlins, they get swept by the Brewers. They're starting to fall back to earth a little bit. Washington, I know they lost 2 out of 3 in their. Well, they won 2 out of 3, I should say. You said against the A's, but it looks like they're starting to fall back to earth a little bit too. So we'll see. Speaking of, like I said, Milwaukee, they swept the Marlins. St. Louis, they're starting to fall back a little bit too. They lose 2 out of 3 to the D-backs, and yeah, I think if you're the Cubs, look, just take care of your business. You can't control what the Brewers are going to do, especially with Jacob Mizorowski. He's starting to, feel a little bit in his pitching arm. That might be something to look out for down the line. So look, just take care of business if you're the Cubs, and just the Brewers, they're going to do what they're going to do. So I would say just concentrate what you're doing, and hopefully you can catch up.
Yeah, the Cubs are currently sitting 6 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central. As we said before, if you're the Chicago's National League Ball Club, just keep taking series and everything else will fall into place. Hopefully, you get some healthy bodies back soon, especially in that starting rotation. Speaking of Jacob Mizorowski, he'll start off the series tonight with the Milwaukee Brewers as they'll face the New York Mets. And former Brewers standout pitcher, Freddie Peralta, that should be a good matchup from. I'm not going to call it that new name. I'll still call it Miller Park. So that should be exciting.
Yeah, that should be an exciting game coming up. That should be a lot of fun. Now, going to the National League West, the Dodgers, they won 2 out of 3 at the new Yankee Stadium. Yamamoto, fired a nice 4-hitter in the rubber match. In the Saturday game. And Ohtani, I know he didn't pitch. He was supposed to pitch yesterday, but unfortunately his knee's still bothering him. So that's why they stuck to hitting for him. But I think if you're the Dodgers, look, I know the D-bats are 11.5 back. All right. But I think what you can do right now is just said, look, I think you see if you can, get another bullpen guy, maybe even another hitter if you can, and just try to see if you can take care of, do what you need to do to have to wrap up that NL West.
Yeah, as you always say, the Dodgers are dodgering. I think you should trademark that as soon as possible. Taking advantage of the Yankees' struggles right now. It goes, as we talked about earlier, it goes way beyond them missing Aaron Judge. But San Diego has been the one of, if not the top disappointing team in MLB this year. They lost 2 out of 3 in San Diego. Yes, they scored 19 runs yesterday, but it doesn't cover up the fact this team has been consistently inconsistent all year. So I'm not a believer in San Diego. If they still continue to struggle between now and the August 3rd trade deadline, they should sell off at least some of their key pieces that they don't want around. Arizona, they may sell a couple of pieces, but they still are hanging around this thing. They took care of St. Louis yesterday in extra innings to take the series, but San Diego is the most disappointing team in this division here. We know Colorado stinks and the Giants stink, but San Diego, you just do the Jordan shrug, like, what the hell happened? But we'll see if they can turn it around. I'm not a believer in them. And like you said, the Dodgers, all you have to do is just get some key guys back, and particularly in your starting rotation, and like I said, get some other healthy bodies ready to potentially make another long run in October. That's what the rest of this regular season is about for LA.
Yeah, and I think, just like I said, just do what you're gonna do. You may lose some series. You got a tough one coming up. We'll talk about the scheduling in a second here, but just do your thing and just get those key guys back, and hopefully they can get it back going. And like I said, wrap up that NL West pretty quickly. Now, speaking of the schedule, Minnesota and Cleveland, these are series that are going to be starting tonight. That should be a fun series. For a potential NL playoff series preview, maybe. The first game will be on ESPN as the Dodgers, speaking of, they face the Phillies, so it's getting easier for the Phillies. And the Yankees will try to rebound from that tough series loss to the Dodgers as they face Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Toronto, Baltimore, and Boston. San Diego. Well, that's one of them. Like I said, one of those streaks is gonna end tonight. So so we'll see what happens tonight. San Diego. They face Atlanta, and the Mets face Milwaukee, and the battle of the who cares about this series? But I'm sure the people in these cities will maybe care a little bit. San Francisco and Kansas City.
Oh, you don't like the rematch of the 2014 World Series? The nerve of you.
I know. That was
of course, the Dodgers. And the Dodgers and the Phillies, we all know how that series, that playoff series last year in the NLDS ended. Ugly for the Philadelphia Phillies. So,
Chap's been over for the
rest of your
Royals team.
Yes. The rest of your schedule for tonight, the White Sox will visit the Texas Rangers in Globe Life Park. Detroit will take on LaKeena's Chicago Cubs at Wrigley. The Miami Marlins will take a trip down to Houston to face the Astros, or the Trastros, as Sean Sierra would say. The Washington Nationals will stay out rest. They'll play the Colorado Rockies. The Oakland Athletics, as we call them on this show, they'll start their road trip. They'll take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Cincinnati will head out west. They'll face LaKeena's second favorite team, the Seattle Mariners. In the second game of the ESPN Monday night doubleheader will take place in Los Angeles, but this time it's the St. Louis Cardinals versus the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
And your television schedule, the second game of that Dodgers Phillies series will be on TBS. And the ESPN game, I think it's going to be blacked out in Chicago. So sorry, Cubs fans who live in Chicago. But the last game of that Detroit Cubs series will be on ESPN, but it won't be airing. It's blacked out here, unfortunately. So you won't be able to watch that on ESPN. Now, your Thursdays games look like this. Kansas City, Detroit, that the beginning of that series will be on MLB Network. Tampa, no, Arizona. Well, yeah, I think the rest of the series are already up. But yes, that's the only series that's starting tonight. But that's your schedule for this early week in MLB.
Hour number one's doors are completely shut. Hour number two's doors will officially open up following these messages right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We had an NBA trade that floated under the radar over the weekend. We'll give you our thoughts on that. The World Cup final had a little controversy. We'll talk some NFL as training camps open up around the league later on this week. We'll have some sports media news, and we'll have a very special edition of Old School TV Monday. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You rock and rolling with us right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the Monday extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. See if the kid is me, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
As we kick off hour number 2 discussing the Bears, NFL, NBA, and a whole lot more for this first half hour to kick off hour number 2. If you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, you can definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Summer League has concluded, and your champions for 2026 is the Golden State Warriors. Jackson Lindenberg gets a second ring in 4 months. Of course, he won with Michigan back in April. He led the Warriors past Cam Boozer and the Grizzlies 94-90 in the NBA Summer League Championship game at the Thompson Mack Center near UNLV's campus. He had 21 points, like I said, in that matchup. The Warriors. I don't know what the Warriors gonna put that with their 5 NBA titles that they've won, but I'm sure it'll be over there somewhere at their facility. But yeah. So Caleb Wilson, of course, he did play their Bulls last game, but look again. I think Summer League, this is really more for the guys, for the rookies, the incoming rookies, and the G League guys and such. So after this, they got a couple of months off before they gotta start training camp coming up in September. So I mean, look, I thought this all really. I watched a little bit of that game yesterday, and I thought look, it was exciting for a summer league, and look at summer league. So, but even still, I mean, look, some of the rookies did impress me. I know Lindenberg did, Boozer did, of course, Caleb Wilson did, LJ Cryer did too. So yeah, a lot of the guys. Look, I mean, this is a nice little welcome to the NBA, as we've been talking about the last few shows.
Yeah, like I said, it's a summer school for rookies and, like you said, incoming rookie undrafted free agents. Whether you're looking to get on the training camp roster in late September, or you're trying to play overseas, or trying to get into the G League. So this is your resume tape. It's not all about scoring all the time, but can you help out defensively? What do you do on screen rolls? Can you help out defensively? What kind of schemes are the coach is trying to teach you? How well can you adapt to those? So it's all about the classroom is your court. It's so much you can do in the film session, but you got to go out there and prove it. So with some of these young players, they get a leg up on the speed on how to do that. And for the ones that's coming back in the fall for training camp, they just have an idea of what to expect. And once the bell rings.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see how these guys adjust. Now they've got a little bit of a taste of what the NBA will be like with the breakneck scheduling and such. So we'll see what happens there in a couple of months. But a big trade came down the pike in the middle of the afternoon, and late morning, early afternoon. And I don't think a lot of people talked about it very much. But the OKC, the Thunder, they traded one of their top defensive guys, Lou Dort, to Atlanta in a 3-team trade that sends 3 second-round picks to OKC for number 1 pick, Zachary Risashir to Dallas, and also Ryan Newberg to Atlanta. Dort has been one of their top defensive guys. Of course, like I said, he was a 2-time All-Defense. Plays for the wing for OKC. Look, we know Sam Presti loves as we see some teams say F them picks, Presti's just the opposite. So I guess maybe he thought that maybe Dort was expendable. So I guess he figured, okay, let's try to flip this and see if depend on some of these other guys that they drafted and see what they can do on defense.
Yeah, this was clearly a business move by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They rather than decline Dort's $17.7 million team option, they decided the Thunder picked it up and traded him to the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Atlanta Hawks we talked about last year, LaKeena, after they traded Trae Young, what were they going to do? Well, they have C.J. McCollum, and some of the other young guys just decided to step up as well. And they gave the Knicks a little bit of a scare in that first round, but they did well enough to down the stretch of the regular season to qualify for the playoffs. As we mentioned, they gave the Knicks a little bit of a scare, but they just couldn't quite come through. But Adam Ludor definitely adds a different dimension to that team. I think Atlanta could be. I'm not going to say they're going to win the championship or anything like that. No, but I think they could finish in the middle of the pack there between 4 and 6 if everything goes right. So, this is a good move for Atlanta in the short term. In the long term, I think it's going to be good for OKC. Like you said, Sam Presti, I think he'll talk to Bryson Graham about how to handle those second round picks. Now that Oklahoma City has 7 second round picks now. So I think Oklahoma City is taking a small step back so they can build back up again. So, we saw how they finished last year in the playoffs, losing a tough 7-game series to the San Antonio Spurs in the Western Conference Final. And we said this around this time last year, LaKeena. Looks like they were trying to resign everybody, but in professional sports in general, you cannot keep everybody happy. But you're going to have to make some tough decisions if you want to stay afloat and be competitive. It's all about sustained success in professional sports. So, and for Oklahoma City fans, welcome to a new class now.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what they do there. Now, LeBron still has folks in the tizzy. I guess there's some buzz that he may make his decision sometime today. Who the hell knows? But you got a little bit of time before camp starts. So yeah, I know it's been annoying. So I would just say, LeBron, just post on social media and keep it moving. Nobody cares. Just say it.
Yeah.
Just say something, please.
Yeah, we all know it's going to be Cleveland. I'm sure he's going to set up a special press conference in front of his school or in front of Gundarita. I'm not calling it that. Quicken Loans, whatever the hell his name is now. Just set up this special press conference. Hire that documentary crew. We all know that it's going to be over for you after the next season, as I said for the last couple of years. So, like you said, stop playing around. We all know it's going to be Cleveland. Just about everybody's going to be happy, and we can move forward.
Well, some people say Golden State might still have a shot, so we'll have to, like I said, we'll have to wait and see what transpires. If there is good news coming up, we'll see. But yeah, I mean that's going to be kind of interesting. Here, any other NBA news? Well, the NBA said they won't punish Bam Adebayo for the altercation with Tyler Hero. I guess maybe because it's off season, so you're just like, oh, okay. So then it's just like,
I think they technically
right.
could have, but like I said, nothing else happened further, so that's probably why they let that go.
Yeah, so like that, whatever. So, but no one really, yeah, I was like, everyone's talking. He was at the ESPY, so no one really talked about it. Like I said, he was presented awards to Fernando Mendoza for breakthrough men's college athlete.
Mhm.
So, no one talked about it. So you're just like, oh, all right.
Yeah, as Damon Sproul, aka D, always a good friend of ours, always says on D and Davis, and we'll echo those same sentiments on this show. Everybody, please keep your hands to yourself.
Words to live by, I think. but yeah,
Yes.
so that's about, yeah, exactly. So that's about it for that now. Let's see. I know Giannis been making the rounds over. He was at the World Cup at MetLife. He was actually at the final at MetLife Stadium for the World Cup final between Argentina and Spain yesterday. I know he's been talking about that. Look, I mean, he still wants to get that ring. Get another chance at a ring. We'll see if the Heat. He's making the rounds. I know he's been practicing down there. So, we'll see how he, flows. And look, they need more guys there because a lot of supported guys they traded over there too. They got traded. So I don't know. It's him, Bobby Portis, Bam, and these other guys. So
speaking of a shooter, scorer/shooter that many teams can use. I think we talked about this player a couple of weeks ago. DeMar DeRozan. There's a bunch of teams that can use his services. I know people talked about Toronto, especially with the reunion as of now with Kawhi back at Toronto. Because it's him and Scotty Barnes and some of the other young players that flourished last year. People talking about the Detroit Pistons, of course, Tobias Harris now with the San Antonio Spurs. Of course, Isaiah Stewart is a member of the Memphis Grizzlies now. I think Miami could use his services. Like you said, do they really have a shooter on that roster? Unless I'm missing something. The answer is no.
Excuse me. Yeah. So Yeah, that's really going to be the thing, a key here for me with that is that, if there is going to, yeah, I mean, that they're going to have to, I think DeRozan would probably fit, he probably would fit very well in that offense with Miami. So, again, like I said, we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, they need bodies. So, they got a little bit of money in the cap. So, it could be somebody that could pick up. I'm sure somebody will. No, look, there's a lot of contending teams that, like you said, that could use him. So, I'm sure he'll find somebody before camp.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see what happens with DeMar DeRozan. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you. Before we get to the article that I found over the weekend, courtesy of Sports Illustrated, training camps will open later on this week around the league, and of course, we're focusing on here in Chicago. On Saturday, the rookies are supposed to report to Hallis Hall. 1 week from tomorrow, the rest of the veterans will report to Hallis Hall. LaKeena, I know we're definitely going to do a deeper dive into this on our next couple of shows, but expectations are high for the Bears this year. We talked about Caleb Williams and all the off the field accolades that he's been receiving with the Madden cover and hanging out with certain celebrities. Ben Johnson getting his props, and rightfully so. But as we talked about before, expectations are very high. We're going into year number 2 in the Ben Johnson regime.
Yeah, and like I said, I think this is going to be interesting to see because there's a lot more tape with this offense now, and I really believe that look, you can't afford to have these slow starts against these teams. Like I said, there's tape everywhere, and I think that's really going to be the key here. And I know some people are raising their expectations as you should. I'm not. Like I said, I think they just caught lightning in a bottle last year. I want to see Caleb Willis. Can he do it consistently? Luther Burden the third, you're going to be perhaps maybe the second guy after Rome, and all those tight ends that the Bears have. I mean, that's good. We'll see how much it's going to be enough footballs for everybody. On the defensive side, look, you got Kobe Bryant. Look, fresh off a ring in Seattle. That's great. You don't have a pass rusher still. If you're hoping that Grady Jarrett and Gervon Dexter, you're hoping those guys could be that pass rusher. I don't think so. Dylan Diamond, look at me. We'll see how he does in that secondary. But for me, I'm just like I don't trust this Bears team. Like I said, I'll talk more about it, but I don't think because people were making their predictions this early on. I think that's kind of dumb. But again, that's just me. Doing schedule predictions like we're still in July, but okay. But yeah, I think the Bears for me are just like, look, I want to show me. I'm in Missouri. I'm from Missouri. I'm not from Missouri, but obviously, but I am in Missouri. Show me that you could be a contender in the NFL, with NFC especially.
I want to focus it on that defense. First, I want to say it's nice to go to another training camp without any controversies about who's going to lose this job, who's going to lose that job in terms of head coaches and players, potential players being disrupted to the locker room. It's nice to go into that mode for the second straight year. So give Ben Johnson credit and Ryan Poles credit for not having those type of players on this team. But there could be a couple of position battles in particular. The offensive line, we know Isaiah Trapillo is going to miss the majority, if not all this year. So that left side of the offensive line could be in flux. I know that on the right side of the offensive line, what's his face? Darnell Wright, he's up for a contract extension after this year. But I want to focus in on the defense. You mentioned about Dylan Thieneman. It's going to take him and Kobe White time to mesh together, barring any major injuries. But can Kyler Gordon stay healthy? Jaquan Brisker, his Roman partner on the opposite side, is now gone. But I want Mark Grody, our guy from now 104.3 The Score in 670. He was on Chicago Sports Tonight last night on Fox 32 here in Chicago locally. And he talked about Austin Booker. Of course, he knocked out Jordan Love last year in a regular season matchup against the Bears. Of course, the Bears won that game in overtime. But does Austin Booker take another step this year? We all know that he's a good situational player, but does Ben Johnson even think about giving him a crack of being that opposite starting defensive end opposite Montez Sweat? Is he good enough to take that spot? It sounds like as of right now, the answer is no. And that's very concerning.
No. Yeah, I think that's the thing that you should be worried about. That's why I think Bears fans rightfully should be concerned about that front seven. They brought in Devin Bush. Look, he's very solid, but again, he hasn't done it consistently. DeMarco Jackson has been pretty good, but Jalen Johnson, he has to stay healthy. That's going to be the thing here for him too. So look, I think that's going to be the number one question here for the Bears. Is that going to be that defense? The offense should be okay, but like I said, Drew Dalman being out, retiring, I think that's going to be a big. That's going to be a big thing here. Jonah Jackson, I think he'll be the okay. Right guard, okay. We'll see if Joe Tooney, he's going to do his thing. Braxton Jones, look, he's consistent. But I think people forget Dalman was the guy in the O line that made that O line go, and not having him there anymore. I don't think people are talking about how big of a loss that is.
Yeah, and like I said, centers they do more than just hide the ball. They call, besides the quarterback's calling the signals, the centers call the audibles before the quarterback does. They see something that the quarterback doesn't see at the time, where the quarterback is going through their progressions and their reads. So, like you said, that position is very important. So we'll see how that all plays out at training camp. I know they brought in Granberry from New England. He was with Minnesota to start his career a few years ago. So that's key. But like you said, that's going to take some time as well. So we'll see what happens with that. I want to go back to the defense real quick and focus in on the defensive backs. Of course, Jalen Johnson was used in spot situations last year as he was recovering from his groin injury. Remember, he was injured around this time last year going to training camp. He missed all the training camp. And on the other side, Tyreek Stevenson, I thought that he was going to trade it in the offseason. Obviously, that didn't happen, but I forget this rookie's name, but he was drafted in the fourth round out of Texas. Does Tyreek Stevenson, that second defensive back slot, does his spot get challenged this year? I think that's a question that people are not talking about as well. I know Mark Grody brought it up once again on a TV show last night, but does Tyreek Stevenson's job get a push at training camp?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing here. Malik Muhammad, that's who you're talking about. The kid from Texas. So yeah, so I think that's going to be. I think he was second team all SEC in the corner. So he is a pretty decent corner. But yeah, I mean that secondary is they got bodies now, but can they do something with that though? I think that's going to be the number one thing here. I think if you're the Bears, so that's going to be the interesting the part about this with the Bears, especially in that defense. Now, real quick, I know we got a couple minutes before we go to break, but. The gang over at SI, they made a list of top defensive tackles, the top 10. So you won't see Chris Jones on there, unfortunately. So we'll probably use that information. But tied for 10, Zach Allen for Denver. He was a first team All-Pro last year. He's a big part of that front seven for the Broncos. So, he definitely had his breakout season. So we'll see what he can do there. Also, the veteran, DeForest Buckner from Indy. He's a veteran still playing at a very high level. He had 59 tackles for a loss last year. They're definitely going to need him if they want to contend in that AFC South. I'm talking about Buckner.
Yes.
Vita Vila, of course, you know him, you love him. He's been a mainstay at that D-line for the Bucks since being drafted in 2018. He still he got a second Pro Bowl nod a couple of years ago. Injuries have kind of been an issue for him, but his leadership though is top notch. So especially with Mike Evans and Lavonte David, of course, especially David who played DB. Now he's retired. They're always going to be on him to lead that defense.
Yeah, we talked about with Tampa Bay's defense, being good, especially at the start of last year. Of course, when the offense struggled, the defense struggled as well. But I like what they did in the draft, drafting Desmond Bain out of the University of Miami. That's definitely going to help a lot, so they get younger at that position. But as you mentioned, Tampa Bay's defense has been good when the offense has been good the last couple years under Baker Mayfield. So you mentioned about Villa. He's definitely one of those strong leaders of that defense, and he's definitely one of the best defensive tackles in the league.
Yeah, really good. And I know Tom Brady loved him when he played at Tampa. That was his guy. So he loved him. He loved him when he played at Tampa. He raved about him constantly those last couple years he played. Cam Hayward, of course, from Pittsburgh. He is still 37 years old. He earned his second team All-Pro honors. last season. He's a 16-year-old vet. He's also the four-time first-team All-Pro, still playing at a very high level at his age. Had 78 total tackles, 3.5 sacks, and a forced fumble. So new coach Mike McCarthy, I know he's so happy that it was on stay with the play for him. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the Steelers and with Cam Hayward if he can still keep it up.
Yeah, like I said, he's still good, but age is creeping up on him. Just like Father Time is undefeated. We'll see if he has enough to help Pittsburgh get back into the playoffs this year. We know that Aaron Rodgers is back this year, but that Pittsburgh defense was hot and cold last year, so we'll see what happens. But like you say, Cam Hayward is still an effective player on that defensive line for Pittsburgh. They're definitely going to need more from him this upcoming year.
Oh, real quick though, going into this, Leonard Williams, of course, from the Seahawks, helped lead the Seahawks to their second Super Bowl. Second team All-Pro, had 61.5 sacks over his career. Yeah, he's been All-Star. I'm glad he got a chance to get his ring after playing for both New York teams. Those first seasons.
Yeah, like you say, he got lost in the sauce with both those New York teams. His talent really shined. It had a chance to shine on that defensive line for Seattle last year. It was the best statistically, the best defense overall, but definitely the best defensive line in the league. They were great against the run, and he helped lead that charge and helped them lead it to the Super Bowl title a year ago.
Speaking of Chris Jones, of course, still, he had 87.5 total sacks in his 9-year career. Look, he started all 17 games for Kansas City. He had 48 QB pressure, 7 sacks, and 12 tackles for loss last season. There's a little bit of wear and tear there, so there is some concern that maybe that might, come back to bite them. That's the key.
And also, too, that big contract that they signed him to a couple years ago as well. You'll know that Kansas City is in salary cap hell because of Patrick Mahomes' contract, so they had to maneuver some other players around. So, they paid Chris Jones, but they maybe had to pay the piper again sooner or later. So, how much does he have left? I'm more worried about him than Cam Hayward, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's really going to be the thing. I think if you're Andy Reid, you should be a little bit worried. So, we'll see what happens there. Now, one of the rising stars we go into the top 5, Derek Brown from Carolina. He set the NFL single season record for the most tackles by a D lineman, 103 back in 23. He got a contract extension that April, but he missed the entire season. Now, since then, he came back with a vengeance last season. Started all 17 games. He had career highs in sacks with 5, pass defense with 7. He registered 57 run stops. That's the first most in the league. 25 quarterback pressures. He was a big reason why the Panthers ended up winning that division last year, the NFC South.
Yeah, Panthers we talked about last year with all the young talent they have on offense, but it was that defense that really got the job done, especially down the stretch last year. Like we said, they beat Tampa twice last year. They upset the Rams in the regular season. Damn near did it again in the playoffs, but they just ran out of time. But we talked about pressure coming in for both defensive ends, rightfully so. But any good defense starts with 2 studs up the middle. You got to stop the run in. If you can create some more quarterback pressures up the middle, that makes your defense that much more dangerous.
Yeah, really. And the Bears will get a first look at that as they start their season against Carolina coming up in September. Now,
September 13th.
Yep. And Dexter Lawrence, of course, now with Cincy. The down season by his standards as he was coming back from injury. But he's still a top end D tackle and had one of the best seasons a couple years before in 24. All-Pro, been to a couple all-pros. Of course, the Giants traded him to the Bengals in the offseason. They definitely we know that Bengals, that defense, they didn't really have one for the most part. But I think he definitely jumpstarts that. So we'll see how he does against with that defense, especially the AFC North.
Yeah, like you said, Dexter Lawrence is going to be one of the new faces, perhaps these faces the new face of that Bengals defense. Don't forget Trey Henderson; he moved on to Baltimore, and so that the familiar face is gone. So Cincinnati, they have so Dexter Lawrence is going to have that much more pressure on him, so he's going to have to produce. As you mentioned, he had a down year last year. You can't use the excuse, "Oh, New York was in flux, and I didn't feel like playing, or they didn't believe in me, and blah blah blah." The pressure is going to be on him now, and it's going to be pressure on Cincinnati as well. Can you keep Joe Burrow healthy? And Zach Taylor, their head coach, his job could be on the line as well. The team actually got off to a decent start last year, but it wasn't until Joe Burrow got injured that the season started to turn on them once again.
Yeah, that's really going to be the key here. We'll see how he does. Now, going to Dallas, Quinn Williams. Again, been consistently one of the best interior linemen for several years. He had 4 consecutive Pro Bowls. I mean, the Cowboys and gave up that haul to acquire him in last year's trade deadline. He's been he did it for the last 4 years now. He did rank 7th among all interior linemen with 51 pressures. He also was really great at being double teamed still. And we'll see how he does in the Brian Schottenheimer defense, but he can make plays in the backfield. He's had double-digit tackles for loss in 4 of the past 6 seasons, including 10 and 15 games last year. So, yeah, the lot of pressure's going to be on him to lead that defense for the Cowboys.
Yeah, the question is, can he generate some quarterback sacks? And I know that his attitude was in question the last couple of years in New York. I know Aaron Glenn didn't want him around last year as he was trying to clean house. So as we said last year, he's getting a fresh new start now in his second year, first full year in a Cowboys uniform, second year overall. Like you said, a lot more is going to be expected from him, and I expect him to be one of those young veterans on that squad to lead that retooling and rebuilt Dallas Cowboys defensive line.
Going to be very interesting to see how he does now. Jalen Carter, staying in the NFC East, Jalen Carter, he's become one of the league's best D tackles. He can do it all on the line. He can quickly read rushes and get through those O linemen, forcing QBs to hurry and adjust their angles. He had 13 pass defenses over the past 2 seasons. He has 7.5 sacks and 17 tackles. So yeah, so he definitely gonna have to. I'm sure Philly fans gonna want to step it up, and we'll see if Nick Sirianni can help him do just that.
Yeah, we talked about the Philadelphia Eagles offense last year being a problem. But the one problem they didn't have was their defense. We saw it last year outside of that game against Chicago on that Black Friday. Jalen Carter, I know Bears fans wanted him being drafted by Ryan Poles, but due to circumstances, due to where the Bears were at the time, Jalen Carter would not fit in terms of the culture that the Bears were trying to build at the time. But with those veterans that he has around him, as you mentioned, he has flourished over the last couple of years, coming out of the University of Georgia. He's definitely one of the best pass rushers in the league. So I expect him to continue to have another dominant season.
Yeah, he really should. So we'll see what Vic Fangio, of course, being the charge that defense. We'll see what happens here now. Jeff Simmons from the Titans. Now, I know some people will say, wait, who? But remember, if you go by the researcher, Next Gen Stats, he had 11 sacks last season, which is tops in the league. 60 pressures, first. Also 13.9 pressure rate. That was first. 18 pressures after a double team. That was first. 5 turnovers caused by pressure, first. 7.5 sacks on third down, first in the NFL. Now, again, the Titans, I know Cam Ward had a lot of attention, but he actually, Simmons had a great season. And I'm sure with Robert Saleh being over there now, especially he's a defensive guy, he should be able to flourish there in his defense.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. With a lot of young guys being on that side of the ball, I expect Mr. Simmons to be that veteran to lead a lot of those young guys, show them how to be a professional both on and off the field, and show them what's the ins and outs of how to be successful in this league. And historically, the Titans have not been they've been dominant. They always had dominant defenses at times, but they've been mostly an opportunistic defense. They looked dominant at times historically, but they haven't been that dominant of a defense. I know they have a lot of young guys from last year, but I think with a year under Robert Saleh, I think that, and with the expected growth that could come from the other side of the ball, I think it's going to take that much pressure off of that defense, that the defense can mature and grow and start to do their thing.
Yeah, and I think that we'll see how he does. And look, I think I expect the Titans. People say the Titans should have a breakout year. We'll see, of course, especially playing the AFC South, but we'll have to wait and see. But it should be fun to see Mr. Simmons thrive in that solid defense. Now we're going to take a really quick break. It's our sports potpourri segment as we're talking the second season sports on Sports of Chicago. Spain wins the World Cup again for the second time this century. We got a new Open champion. Connor Bedard gets his contract extension. ESPN resigns one of their top stars. And of course, Old School TV Monday. Now we'll give you guys a little bit of test to see if you remember this TV movie coming up as we talk about to end the show. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago Sports Potpourri segment coming up right after this.
Poof.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
To the Monday extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment, which means this is our last break of the show for today. So if you have any questions or comments on any other subjects we discussed thus far on today's show, you better hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Basically, sports potpourri segment coming up. We'll start with the World Cup as Spain wins the World Cup for the second time this century, and in a thrilling final, beating Argentina 1-0. Ferran Torres's goal in seconds into the second period of stoppage time helped them defeat Argentina, holding them off there. Of course, they won their first back in 2010. So, like I said, it's their second this century. That's why I wasn't joking, but that is their second time winning. Is the second time this century. Now, of course, between the halftime show, which I know some soccer players, I heard Wayne Rooney, who was a top player for England for years, say that he hated it. I think it was more or less. I think it was really more because of soccer players have a routine. So I think that's probably why that they had to wait like almost 30 minutes until from the end of the first half to the start of the second half. They're not used to that. So, but it was, like I said, it was okay. You had Shakira, you had Madonna, you had BTS, you had Justin Bieber. So you basically, covered basically just about all genres of music. So, it was what it was. And it ended up being a good final. So.
Yeah, I missed the halftime show. I'm sure I'll catch it. Someone's should have posted it up on YouTube by now, so I'll eventually catch it. But as far as the actual game was concerned, as you talked about it on the show last Friday, LaKeena, Argentina had maybe a little bit of an unconventional path to get into the final, but they were still a good team. Spain has been one of the favorites, and next to France, obviously France was out, but Spain's been was one of the favorites going into this tournament. They showed why they were the dominant team yesterday. Yes, Argentina tried to make their runs, but they really couldn't get any shots on goal, in my opinion. And it kind of reminded me of the USA Belgium game that took place 2 weeks ago tonight in Seattle. And even though USA tied the game and won, you kind of had that feeling that Belgium, if they could get a break or two, they would regain control of the game. That's exactly what happened. But the difference was that Argentina stayed with Spain. Spain had possession 65% of the time. They had 4 big chances created. They were accurate on their passes 89% of the time to Argentina 77%. But in my opinion, of course, the controversial call, what turned it around, which made it go in Spain's favor, was their red card call in the extra time against Argentina, which I didn't think it was supposed to be called, but the referee has been maligned for the most part in this tournament, and it was another bad call, in my opinion, with that red card yesterday.
And I think that's really going to be the thing here. I think that was deserving of a red card. I think because, look, you just can't do that, try to trip a guy over. That's just not that's not customary in soccer. They will call a red card for that every time. So, I know some, but you hear a lot of Argentinian fans could argue with that. So, that part that kind of killed whatever moment. So that they had their chance. They had a couple of chances perhaps maybe get the equalizer, but they weren't able to do that.
They did.
Yeah. So, they had their chances. They just couldn't get it through. And I think they got caught up, but, to Spain's credit, they were able to, get it going there. And look, shout out to the Argentinians goalie, Fernandez. He kept them in it. He had 9 great saves, which is tops of any World Cup game. And he kept them in it. It was only going to be a matter of time. It was only going to be a matter of time when he was going to get it. Emiliano Martinez, I mean, he kept them in it. So he's been vital in their World Cup. He kept them in that game for as long as he could. He was only going to be a matter of time before they would go through. And of course, Torres, did that, just seconds into the second half of extra time, I should say. So look, they took care of business, and and then, like I said, Yamal's little brother, if you saw him, making the rounds, he's been a social media star this whole World Cup. And of course, he's there celebrating with the team. He was playing with some of the kids of the other players. And he even had a little bit of a moment with the security guards there. So only 3 years old, that little guy. We might be seeing him in a World Cup at some point in a few years, in a couple World Cups from now. But he was definitely the star of the World Cup. He was definitely the star of the World Cup for me.
Yeah, you like to see the young folks do their thing, and as long as it's not with malicious intent or anything like that, you like to see great moments like that. But as far as the game was concerned, I thought both goaltenders were great. But as I mentioned just a second ago, after that red card was called on Argentina in that extra time, you could tell that Spain got that momentum and which carried them to the long goal of the game. But as you mentioned, Argentina had their chances, but they just couldn't quite get it through. They had one or two chances in that first half to kind of set the tone, but it just couldn't go through. They just couldn't find that big break to take advantage of. And Spain were they were the best team, and they had just had a little bit more juice at the end there.
Yep. So yeah, so that was an interesting matchup there. And a shout out to Spain social media people, and also the Spain players for not letting you know who try to steal their moments. I know that I'm not gonna say who. You'll Google your friend post. You can go on YouTube, but I'm just gonna leave it there. But yeah, makes me respect Spain even more with that. So thank you, Spain, for that little ditty there. Now, Spain will actually be one of the countries that'll be hosting the World Cup in 2030. Because them, Portugal, and Morocco, so actually the first time the tournament will go to all the three continents, of course. And that's going to be very interesting to see. Of course, they will open down in Brazil and Argentina because it'll be the 100th anniversary of the World Cup. There because the first match was played in 1930, so they're going to be commemorating that by playing some of the early openers down in Paraguay and in Uruguay, and then a couple of the other South American countries. It'll be, of course, then once they get to the main draw, Morocco, Portugal, and of course, reigning champion Spain will host it. So it should be interesting to see what they do, in 4 years. But who will be airing that World Cup? We don't know yet. Of course, Netflix, Fox wants to do it again, but of course, also ESPN wants in on it too. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, as the old saying goes, money talks, BS walks. So we'll see what happens. They have less than 4 years to come up with that decision. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena kicking here with you on a Monday extravaganza edition. Let's transition over to golf overseas at the Open Championship. LaKeena, as you mentioned at the top of the show, we have a new winner. He hails from Great Britain, and his name is Ryan Fox. He's your new 2026 Open champion. He beats Cameron Young by 1 stroke. Cameron Young had finished at a -9. Fox finished with a -10 score, earning his winnings and earnings from just by winning yesterday's tournament totaled to a whopping $3.2 million.
Well, actually, Fox is from New Zealand. He's only the second. He's only the third. Yeah, he's the only male golfer from New Zealand to win a major championship. Bob Charles did it all the way back in 1963 over at Royal Lithium at St. Anne's. The 63 Open Championship, of course, Michael Campbell dual Tiger Woods in 05 at Pinehurst for the U.S. Open, I should say. Fox, look, he's been around for a little bit. He's one of the good guys on tour. He has a couple of tour titles. He won a couple years ago. In 23, he moved from New Zealand all the way to Florida. So that was a really sweet moment. You saw him with his family, FaceTime with his family. Of course, they stayed in Florida because they're still getting settled. But he told his little girls that his two little girls told him, "Hey, Daddy, bring a trophy." Well, he brought the girls. He's bringing the trophy, and also $3.2 million. Also, so he gets another nice little check. That's little check there. And look, I think I think he's one of the fastest guys on tour too. Like not even 20 seconds after Sam Burns got his par putt in 18, he just said, "Look, I'm not. Look, he even said to himself, look, I'm not gonna mess around. I don't want to go to a playoff. I'm going for that shot he hit on 18 in one of the toughest holes. There was only 4 birdies by that point. The fact that he was able to nail that and win the tournament, that's going to be the stuff of legends."
Yeah, and like we said about Tiger Woods back in the day, when you have somebody on the ropes, you go for the kill. You don't mess around because you don't want to give, your opponent the advantage. Oh, give them hope. Oh, we can come back. There's a door that's left open. Let's have take advantage of it. No, you going for the kill. You go for the win, and everything else be damned. But you mentioned about Sam Burns just a second ago. He was one of 3 Americans that finished in the top 5 next to Scotty Scheffler and Cameron Young.
Yeah, Burns, he kind of had his struggles, the early on that front 9 that kind of killed him. So he had that double bogey, I believe in the 4th hole that kind of sort of killed his momentum there. Scotty Scheffler, of course, is the defending champion. He left a lot. He even said himself he left a lot of birdies on the board because the course was had good scores. So that was a tough one for him. But look, he still had a solid top 5 finish. Tommy Fleetwood, that's his home course. That's his highest finish. You got to think it's going to be a matter of time for him before he finally wins it. Siwoo Kim, of course, he had to leave for a little bit, but again, he had a couple of tough holes that kind of all showed there. Adam Scott, they didn't show too much, but Adam Scott had his best showing in a major in a while, and he loves playing at the Open, so he gets another top 10 finish for him. Ludwig Oberg, of course, he's been near the top. He's been top of the leaderboard in some of these, I think like 5 of the last 7 majors. Yeah, I think it's going to be a matter of time for him before he wins his first one. Hideki Matsuyama, his best finish over at the Open Championship. Bryson DeChambeau, we're not going to talk about that stroke penalty he had after the second round. That was stupid. He could have said, but look, he stayed with it. He had not a good last round, 72, but this is best showing in the last, I think, like 6 majors. So he'll take that of your DeChambeau, and also did his best finish ever at the Open. So the fact that he actually did his best finish at the Open, which a lot of people thought he couldn't do, you'll take that going into next year in the major championships. So look, it ended up being a great tournament, and we'll see these guys next year in St. Andrews.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Bryson DeChambeau because I don't know if we brought his name up on last Friday on the show, but I saw that he finished at a -4. I was like, that was interesting. Of course, I want to ask you about Ricky Fowler. I know his name wasn't mentioned that much, but he finished at a -3. What did you think about his performance? I thought he maybe can go up to top 10, but looking at the final leaderboard, he was tied for 18th.
Yeah, I think Fowler has had some injuries and he's had some issues with his swing. So, but again, I think you'll take that going into next year if you're Fowler. Finishing in the top 20. Same thing with Colin Morikawa, of course, who won this one back in 21. Of course, that was during still the pandemic was kind of like in the tail end of it, but a lot of people couldn't go there to see him. I know his wife wasn't there, and of course his parents weren't either. So but still, look, like I said, I think it was a solid Open Championship. That's the end for the majors coming. Majors. That's the end for them, and now we go to the FedEx Cup. Coming up in about a week or so.
All right, and one more golfer that I want to ask you about, Brooks Koepka. He tied for 28, and he finished at -2. Maybe he could have made a run there, but he came up short.
Yeah, I know he had a tough second round. This is not, like I said, the Open Championship has never been his favorite either. So the fact that, I think his highest was like in the top 10, so top 15, I should say. So kind of the same thing with Fox. He was kind of like, this is 29th major, tournament. I think the best Fox had, I think it was like around that time, like in the 30s. So this is definitely a big sort of starting moment for him. But yeah, Koepka is going to be very interesting to see, coming up down the line. I know he's still in transition and coming back from LIV back to the PGA Tour, so he hasn't really played a lot of golf. That might have played a part into why he didn't do very well in the Open Championship. But hopefully once he gets the rhythm back into the rhythm of playing the PGA Tour, we'll see. Maybe he can get back to a continued phase tournament next year.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here, kicking it with you. And as we head down the home stretch, we have less than about 6 minutes left in the program. Before we finish it off with Old School TV Monday, LaKeena has some sports media news that she likes to share with the rest of the class.
Well, Tim Tebow has re-signed a new multi-year extension to stay with ESPN. He'll continue his role on the very popular SEC networks, SC Nation, which is kind of like the SEC version of College Game Day. There'll be a lot of new faces, though, this year. With then of course Laura
Mhm.
Ruthers is going to be concentrating on more NFL duties, so she's going to leave that spot after almost a decade. Matt Berry will take over there. Also, Chase Daniel, he's going to be joining in as well. Jordan Rogers will have a bigger role over at their college football coverage. So I'm sure we'll talk about that down the line. And Roy Hopper, of course, who joined there in 2020. So
Mhm.
you'll probably see more Tebow, probably more. He'll also be doing some stuff, but I think he's going to still be do some stuff with Get Up and the other ESPN properties too. So yeah, more Tim Tebow. Yay.
Yeah, yeah. You know me, I'm not the college football junkie like you are, but just peeping in on these pregame shows throughout the last several years, and especially that one I know is on SEC, ESPN, SEC network. But I noticed a sneaky, at least for me, just on the low that they were trying to make him a star. Now since they resigned, they're going to try to make him the big star. This could be a good thing, obviously, for his brand, but could it be a great thing for the network? We'll find out. But like you say, he's going to appear again on the various ESPN platforms outside of Sports Center. So this could be a great thing for him. But like you said, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting, especially once we get closer and closer to the season. I think could be other big changes. Of course, we know Charles Davis. He's going to be going to be taking over for Gary Danielson with Brad Nessler on the CBS's college football coverage. We know the big noon kickoff. We'll see some of the new, there's been some departures there, so we'll see. Also, same thing with ESPN as well. We've seen some guys come in and guys leave, so we'll see. Well, once we get those names, I'm sure within the next few weeks we're going to be seeing that. But it'll be interesting to see how as it closer and closer to the season, what new college announcing teams, it's NFL teams too, announcing teams too.
Yep. So, like I said, it's usually around this time of year that we get when we get those names finalized for the upcoming season, both college and pro, and we usually talk about it. But like you said, at the end of the day, it's all about the it factor and the personalities. Can you attract those viewers, especially those viewers that are casual, that make you want to tune in and watch your coverage? But like you said, with the names that'll hopefully be announced in the next few weeks, we'll see what happens.
To be very interesting. Now, Connor Bedard got his new contract. Well, happy belated birthday. He turned 21 on Friday. We didn't mention it, but
he can drink now.
Yeah, he can illegally. And but also he got his a new extension with the Blackhawks, a 5-year, $75 million extension that will run through the 2030-31 season. And look, I mean, the Blackhawks are pretty busy this off season. I mean, I guess they're gonna try to go for a playoff spot. My thing is that they need to work on their depth. So who's gonna be a part of that depth with Bedard? I know, like I said, I know Kyle Davis has been very busy, so I'm kind of with you, so I'm in show me mode with him as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, like I said at the end of last year, that contract extension that he received was premature. And of course, you didn't know that Connor Bedard was going to have a freak injury, with his shoulder that was causing him going to miss at least the first month of the season, perhaps the first month and a half. But Kyle Davis, in my opinion, needs to make a big trade. Obviously, if it doesn't happen now, if you're close to the deadline, if you're in striking distance of perhaps in the mix, actually in the mix for a playoff spot, when you make that big trade. I know many Hawks fans, including you, truly want him to do that right now, but he hasn't really done any big moves this offseason. So that's why I said this contract extension was premature, because I want him to operate like his ass is on fire. So far, he hasn't done that.
I mean, like I said, we'll see. I think the first few months, especially with Bedard being out, he's not going to be out, I believe, till December or November, November or December. So I'm wondering, like, okay, what is his plan in case that the Blackhawks get into a slow start? That's going to be the thing for me if they want to perhaps maybe try to contend for a playoff spot. So we'll see. We'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, let's just hope that the Blackhawks front office doesn't use that as an excuse, because if they do, they're really in trouble.
All right, so you listen to Second City Sports on Sports with LaKeena, McGee, stay around with you as we get a few more minutes to wrap things up. Anything else before we go to Old School TV Monday?
No, let's finish up like we always do with Old School TV Monday.
All right. So well, every Monday, most Mondays I should say, around this time, we go old school. You'll go back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, or even further than that. And we talked about TV shows, sporting events, movies, even some little like pop culture stuff from back in the day. Now, this one here, we're going to do a little bit different because you may remember it, you might not. It's one of those things where unless you know you remember it or you don't remember it, I I don't know how Sid feels, but I was on a ladder with this one. But this is a Leo White special that aired February 22nd, 1992, and this special, it was kind of a TV movie, kind of, sort of. It featured Jaleel White, of course, who took off, of course, when he appeared as Steve Urkel on Family Matters, and just a regular kid and teenager going through the usual stuff, high school sports, love, and so much more. Tatiana Ali, of course, Fresh Prince of Bel Air fame. We did that show already for Old School TV Monday. We did Family Matters as well. Played his love interest. Neil Carter, of course, played his mother. And of course, you had music from Kid and Play. I do remember that. I remember that one, if nothing else. I do remember that. Also, Flip Wilson, I think it was one of his last TV appearances before he passed away. Well, actually, we'll tell you a connection with those two in a second. But yeah, also Vanessa Williams also appeared on that special too. And you sent me the link to this over the weekend, and I watched almost like the whole 2 hours, and I remember the whole hour because it aired on a Saturday. It aired I think 7 o'clock on Saturday in February of '92. But I remember something. I do remember, like I said, I do remember Kid and Play performing at the end, but I don't remember anything else between that. So, Sid, what was your memories of this special?
I'm like you, I forgot about it, but it was during the height of his popularity. Of course, Family Matters, the TV show was taken off, but I'm sure I watched it, but it wasn't anything that really stuck out to me. Like I said, I watched it a couple weeks ago. It popped up on my feed out of nowhere on YouTube. It's on YouTube, by the way, courtesy of Paul Stop Eject Videos YouTube channel. So go check it out. Just type in the Jaleel White special, and that video will come up right there. But also Little Richard made an appearance in that special as the genie. Remember, he did that role a couple years ago. Remember that he did that role a couple years before in that Michael Jordan commercial for Nike with him and Spike Lee. That was very classic. Go look that up on YouTube. But also too, we had a budding superstar in Hollywood at the time named Bumper Robinson. He played Tatiana Ali's girlfriend. Of course, we saw him on A Different World, I believe, the last 2 years of that show. He was on Sabrina the Teenage Witch for a couple episodes. So he's been around for a long time. So he was in that special as well. And, of course, the beautiful and talented Vanessa Williams. I know if you know her story, people thought her career was over when she was booted out of Miss America because of the new photos. Of course, she turned around and gave that industry the big middle finger. So she went on to have an iconic career, both singing, dancing, and acting. So thank you very much to those haters. But it was a kind of a musical in Jaleel White's talents being displayed on the television screen. It was almost like a musical fantasy about him trying to chase Tatiana Ali's character down. So, like I said, Flip Wilson was legendary in that role as well. So, it was good for what it was. But like you said, maybe just because they're my personal favorite rap group one of my favorite rap groups of all time. Kid and Play, my boys turned it out at the end there. And of course, you remember at the end of that episode, he took Jaleel White took Tatiana Ali's character out to that block party. And of course, that's where Kid and Play performed. And no, folks, they did not lip sync there. They did that live. So, that's what made that performance so special. So it was a C plus B minus for what it was. But I'm glad that at the time that ABC gave Jaleel White the creative opportunity to showcase his talents. Of course, we know his story before about him. It wasn't his first go around on television. We'll get into that show, Charlie and Company, at a later date. But of course, Jaleel White did his thing on Family Matters throughout the run of the 90s. He's still hosting the TV shows and specials now. He's going to host one, I believe, on HGTV coming up in a few weeks. So we're looking forward to that. I'm sure we're going to talk about that on this show at some point. So he's an all around talented guy. He's not just doing it in front of the camera. He's been doing it behind the camera as well.
Yeah. Well, the connection you said, with Charlie and Company, Flip Wilson played his dad. And of course, Gladys Knight played the mom. She's on the theme song. Of course, future daytime icon, the late great Christoph St. John played the older brother in that. So, like I said, we'll do that show down the line for Old School TV Monday. Of course, like I said, that was a connection with Flip Wilson, of course, Jaleel White. They go back a long ways there. And I mean, look, this is not the first time that ABC has done this type of thing. They did one with Emmanuel Lewis, I think 85, I think that aired. I think I remember watching that one too. Of course, that was the height of the Webster popularity of that show. We'll do that show down the line. And I believe they did one with Henry Wickford too, way back in the mid 70s and 76 or 77. Or I think it might be with Ron Howard. I know it was with one of them. So so it's not the first time. That was what they did back in the day in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where if you become a big star, they give you a TV special. That's what they did back in the day. So if it wasn't for a Saturday morning cartoon, you got your own TV special. So it was either or back in those days. Yeah, let's be honest. But so the show was cute. It was, I thought oh, okay, but now I see why I don't remember, because it was really nothing really stood out. I mean, but look, it was I mean, that was really popular back then. The TV musical genres and such. So if you guys haven't watched it or you've forgotten about it like we did, you can go back and watch it. Just type in Jaleel White special. It's only about 48 minutes, over 48 minutes. So it's not it's not a long viewing, so you can get it through in one sitting. You want to get your kids to watch it. It's nice, good, clean, G-rated fun.
Yeah. Everybody can watch it from 8 to 81 years old. So for this week's edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the 1992 ABC TV special, the Jaleel White special. All right, LaKeena, take us home.
Beautiful. I'm LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
If you miss an interview, if you miss so we're talking about shows and specials for Old School TV Monday, no worries, you can catch up with it anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago specific YouTube channels. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch the replays anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago specific YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
All right, enjoy the baseball this week. I know there's going to be some big series coming up, so it should be a lot of fun. I know the Chicago Sky has a game, I believe, on Wednesday against the Liberty. I think it's their last game before they do their All-Star break here, which is here in Chicago this year, top of the WMA All-Star break. So if you guys want to check that out, you can. I don't know if it's going to be on TV anywhere, but you can check it out if you want. But yeah, so enjoy all the sports. Also, you can just chill for a little bit and get ready for football season. We know I promise we will have folks coming in to preview, talk Bears and other NFL stuff. So we got a lot of stuff coming up for you in this next month or so as we get ready for the season. But with that said, for Sid, I'm the Keys of Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Go Sox! Holla!